Pinocchio. Be brave.
Truthful.
Non-selfish.
You will always be my real boy.
I'm going to go ahead and jump into my review for Pinocchio, chat. Now, I know I have to be more specific. Disney's Pinocchio. Still not specific enough. Disney's 2022 live-action remake of Pinocchio. There we go, chat. There you go. Very nice segue. Thank you for the help, Koki. But yeah, chat, I have seen this film. And listen, in case you don't know, you don't know the premise of the movie. It's literally a remake of the original 1940 film, an iconic movie, chat, one of the best of that era for Disney, in my opinion. Beautiful animation, great songs, chat. A wonderful, adaptation. But we've had a lot of Pinocchio adaptations over the years. It is in public domain. The book literally came out nearly 140 years ago. So it's like, wow, it's nearly a century and a half old at this point. And we have gotten dozens and dozens, if not hundreds, of adaptations of this story, Chad, animated, live action, for the stage, of course. For theaters and for television. Across the board. But it's kind of hard to beat that original 1940 film. Hell, there's other adaptations of Pinocchio that we're getting this year. I've already gotten. You had that creepy one with Pauly Shore. And then we actually have a Pinocchio remake that I'm actually looking forward to, which is Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio, coming out to Netflix, taking place in 1930s fascist Italy, chat. Kind of done a stop-motion animation style. It's like, that looks pretty cool. I'm actually looking forward to that quite a bit, chat. Hopefully that will be the best Pinocchio movie of the year, because this one, I'll tell you right now, this one certainly is not. However, I got to say, I went into this movie with extraordinarily low expectations. I found the marketing and the trailers lackluster and honestly just downright creepy. From what I had seen, from what all of us had already seen, chat, from those trailers, the designs and the aesthetics of that original 1940 animated film, at least to me, were not translating well to live action. Whether it be Pinocchio or even other characters like Honest John, there's just something kind of uncanny valley about it. It's like, this looks weird. Like that classic design of Pinocchio, which they attempt to make live action, there's something about it, it just looks dead. The eyes look dead. And I guess it makes sense that they got someone like Robert Zemeckis to do that, who has experience in these very weird, off-putting animated films like Polar Express or The Christmas Carol or Mars Needs Moms or whatever else he's done in the latter half of his career now. Like, dead-eyed characters, let's get Robert Zemeckis. He loves that shit. And that's on full display here, chap. But in any case, and what happened, though, after I was like, listen, okay, I'm going to go into this, watch this movie. I was already hearing a lot of bad things. We've all been hearing very bad things about this film, chat. And the fact that it was going straight to Disney Plus, that wasn't exactly a great sign. Disney Plus kind of similar to a lot of these streaming services now. It's like, yeah, we don't have a lot of faith in this being in theaters. Let's put it on our streaming services straight to VOD. It's like, that's not a good sign. And Chad, I hate to admit it, but what we got was what I figured we'd get all along. It's a generic paint-by-numbers remake that repeats just many of the exact same things from the original that we already know about. However, it does so in a less interesting way throughout the entire film. It also does something very weird, in my opinion, where it subtracts from the original material by adding to it in the worst ways possible, which causes it to be very poorly paced. This movie, because I'm like, why is this movie's nearly 2 hours long. It's nearly 2 hours long, chat. And the original Pinocchio is about an hour 20, hour 25. It's surprisingly short. It gets going, and once it gets the ball rolling, chat, it goes. And it goes at a pretty breakneck pace. This one, for whatever reason, it's like, okay, we're going to show you the same things you've already seen, except we're going to extend those scenes and also include other scenes with new characters you're just not going to give a shit about. That's kind of what this movie does throughout. And the thing is, like the original Pinocchio, like a lot of, Disney animated films, certainly during that time period in the 40s and all the way up until like the Renaissance era, there were musicals. Yeah, Pinocchio was a musical. But for this movie, various songs are removed and only reference. They do add some new type of songs, if you want to consider them songs. But those sequences just feel really padded out. And it's like, why are we spending so much time with this? There's a lot of, I notice, especially, you'll notice this in the beginning, because you spend so much time in Geppetto's workshop, Geppetto being played by Tom Hanks, who I'm going to get to in a fucking second. But there's a lot of talking, singing in this movie, from Hanks in particular. And that shit just doesn't work. I would have just preferred, like, don't even reference the songs. Don't even try to sing. Don't do this whole talking, mumbled sequence, because it just comes off a little awkward, and you kind of feel bad. And another thing, and Disney's like, listen, I don't think they had any confidence in this movie, because they're like, let's just use this film as a way to show off and promote our brand. There is some egregious, awkward product placement in this movie. You have constant references to other Disney properties in this film. Toy Story, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, which, you know, Zemeckis famously directed, of course. Snow White, Sleeping Beauty, you name it, chat. And it comes across so awkward. Like in the original Pinocchio film, when you're in Geppetto's workshop, like he's a clockmaker. He does all these little wooden contraptions and things. He makes toys. But what's so cool about those little clocks and things that he does and the toys that he makes, they're kind of like, they showcase life. They showcase real life, what people often go through. They're like, oh, they're kind of little fun visual gags. Like, oh, that's kind of neat. It's like, oh, you have like the postman delivering the mail for this clock. It arrives on the hour. It's like, I get that. Or you have the person who's trying to like feed his family and he's a farmer. Or you have one person trying to cut the head off a turkey. It's like, oh, it's all playing with this. This just, all the clocks are Disney movies. And this is like in the first 5 minutes of the film. And I was like, oh, here we go. I'm like, hey, here we fucking go. Or they literally have Woody riding Bullseye out of the clock, and it's like, oh, it's referencing Toy Story, and, you know, get it? Because Tom Hanks voices fucking Woody, and he's in the movie. It's like, I get it. Who Framed Roger Rabbit? It doesn't even make sense. That's another thing, too. It's like, why are you referencing movies, even though this obviously takes place in the 1880s? This is like a period piece, all right? This isn't a modern-day Pinocchio. This is 1880s Pinocchio in Italy? Maybe it's Italy? I don't know. Everyone has a different accent, depending on the scene they're in. But you have Who Framed Roger Rabbit, which takes place in like the mid 40s, and then you have Toy Story, which I'm like, okay, that's from the 90s. Like, where are we doing? Where are we going with this? It just doesn't make. It's just there to show off their catalog of films and their various franchises. There is some insultingly bad and mind-numbing modern references to pop culture. I mean, I'll spoil this for you, chat. This movie makes an Instagram joke. They reference content creators and influencers. There is a reference to Chris Pine in this, and it's like this movie makes me realize, like, wow, you know what? Anyone who's like, oh, too intimidated to like, oh, filmmaking or screenwriting, it's too hard. It's like, don't be, because someone paid a screenwriter millions of dollars or hundreds of thousands of dollars to write a Chris Pine joke in a major Disney blockbuster film. So don't look down yourself, okay? Because that guy certainly didn't when he made a joke about Chris Pine the movie. Because you have the character of Honest John, who we'll get to in a second, voiced by Keegan-Michael Key, who is like, Pinocchio, that name is shit. No, we got to come up with a better name. How about, I got it, Chris Pine, huh? And it's like a beat waiting for like everyone to laugh. Everyone's like, oh, I don't get it. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Horrible. You have other awkward scenes too. It's this padding. It's these new scenes that they add in between familiar scenes that we see. There is one which is already going around the internet right now, which is you have Pinocchio who's going on his way to school, and the way everyone's like, there's also inconsistencies with the world, how they react to Pinocchio, because you'll have some people that see Pinocchio and go, huh, it's a wooden boy. And they'll just go about their day. They're like, whatever, who cares? And then you'll get other people going like, oh my fucking God, it's an abomination of nature. It's like, there's no consistency between this. You're getting fucking whiplash. How fast that barometer is going back and forth, chat. That doesn't make any sense. But you have one scene in the film where Pinocchio is hopping to school and it looks weird. It looks weird, like this design. going around his fucking head. And they do this gag with him constantly where he does like this exorcist spin with his head as he's looking around as he's hopping and skipping to school. It's very fucking creepy. It's very fucking creepy. But there's a scene where Pinocchio literally stops. Like the movie just stopped and he goes, "What's that?" And he crouches and there's a huge pile of shit in the road. I'm not joking. There's a huge pile of horse manure where like a horse just like, I have to relieve myself. Right in front of this courtyard. Pinocchio literally drops down his hands and knees and just goes, smelling his own shit. Also, that's another thing that freaked me out too, because Geppetto at one point in the movie gives him an apple, like, here, give this to your teacher. It's like, oh, that's really nice. He drops the apple like right next to the pile of shit. And I'm like, that is just gross. That is like, what? Why are we doing here? Again, just these awkward scenes that are just unnecessary. Like, what? I mean, it's a poop joke. Okay, I guess. Why did you need that? It feels unnecessary. Anyway, they continue on. They continue on with the rest of the movie, and there's a lot of scenes like that. There's oh god, they had these other scenes. They introduced like these new characters. There's this girl who has this condition of her leg. I think her name is Fabiana or something, and she works for Stromboli, I guess. She's a puppeteer and a dancer, and she's in there. It's like, okay, well this could be interesting. You could bring here where maybe people don't like. The thing is, I'm bringing more to it thinking about it. Like, oh, you could have it where people don't view her as a person because of her disability, and she can have a connection with Pinocchio, and Pinocchio can have a connection with her, and they'll have that nice. None of that's there. None of that's there. It's like, oh, that's what that would be like an obvious thing you would do as a screenwriter. Like, I want to include a new character that Pinocchio can identify at one of his lowest moments and say like, hey, people feel about me this way. They don't look at me as human, or I mean, hell, the thing is, like, the character is obviously of a different race chat. She's a person of color. It's like, how about you want to get fucking, you want to get like really brutally honest? Like, she lives in a time period where people would view her lesser, not only because she has a leg that has been injured, but also because she's of another race. It's like, let's really fucking go there, Disney. But they're too scared to do something like that. You could have done that, and they chose not to. And her scenes feels superfluous. They just feel unnecessary. And this whole sequence with another puppet who Pinocchio thinks is real, it's like, you don't need any of this. Just move on. Just move on. Also, the special effects, the CGI, the green screen, they're using that volume shit, which I'm more and more so. I'm like, I just don't like it. I just don't like it. And I feel like for the most part, they're used pretty atrociously. But it's especially atrocious towards the end of the movie. I feel like they ran out of money by the time we got to that third act. I feel like they just like, yeah, we ran out. We don't know. We got to wrap this up really quick. So everything with Monstro, the whale, like they make Monstro like part squid too. That I feel like, yeah, we don't have anything. Because the green screen, the volume, or whatever the hell they were, it just doesn't look right. It just feels like nothing else is real in the scene except Tom Hanks. And Tom Hanks, he's a great actor. He's not great in this, and I'll go over various reasons why. But he feels like he's lost in the film. I mean, the character is literally lost in the movie, but he's also lost in the movie itself. Where he's like, oh, and he's reacting to things like, you don't know what you're looking at. You don't know what to react to. And it feels that way because nothing around him, from the water to the boat to Pinocchio himself to Jiminy fucking everything, just the sky, nothing's real. And it comes across in Hank's performance. He doesn't sell it. He doesn't able to sell it. I don't think he was given very good direction by Robert Zemeckis, chap. Also, the way in which Pinocchio interacts with human characters is weird. It's off. Like, occasionally it's like, okay, it's okay. Like when Stromboli has him and he's throwing him around and stuff. I'm like, okay. Like that actor is selling it that he's holding him. But then again, towards the end of the film, when like Pinocchio and Geppetto are like hugging, like when Pinocchio's hugging Geppetto, he's supposed to be gripping Geppetto's clothes, but there's no movement. There's no movement or indentation on Geppetto's arm or his clothes. He's done like there's nothing there. It's like I see him like, gripping him, but it's like it's not working. It's not real. It's like, you're not fucking selling this effect. And there's no connection with the real world, the practicality of it. And it again just shows you that they were like, whatever. No one will notice. I noticed, and other people were noticing too. it feels cheap. So much of this movie feels cheap. And it shouldn't, because it's a Disney movie. Now, getting into more specific details about the characters, a lot of people are talking about Tom Hanks, but some people are praising his performance. I'm like, I don't understand why. The first 15 minutes of the movie, you're pretty much spending it in Geppetto's workshop, and Tom Hanks, he can't decide whether he's going to keep that accent or not. He's straight up doing his impersonation of Elvis's agent. Again, from that Elvis movie of Austin Butler. He's the same fucking character. Yeah, it's Pinocchio. But then he'll mumble, I don't really understand what he's saying. And then he'll try to do the songs, or at least that talking singing, and he just sounds like Tom Hanks. He sounds like an American. And it's like, why did you get, I understand Tom Hanks, he's America's dad, everyone fucking loves him. But when you get someone who could at least attempt to do a halfway decent Italian accent, or a boppity boopy accent, which a number of characters do in the movie, but he can't decide. And then just the pacing for that particular sequence in the film, where they do the whole thing where he's gonna wish upon a star. Like the famous scene when Geppetto, this lonely old man who misses his dead son, he wishes this little wooden boy that he just made would become real and be like his son. The movie chooses not to, let us hear that wish. He literally goes up and he does the whole starlight, star bright, I wish to make a wish tonight. And then we then cut, and then we got Jiminy going, what the hell are you saying over there? And then he's like, my wish is done. And he's going to tell Figaro the cat with the CGI, and Figaro the cat looks terrible. He's like, you want to know what my wish is? And Figaro's like, I don't fucking know or care. And he's like, I'm not going to tell. It's just weird. And again, it's just more of Tom Hanks. I feel like a lot of this is improvised too, his performance. Him acting against nothing, and it just becomes really awkward. So, and again, by the time we get the third act with him, he's terrible. This is another sad. It's a bad year for Tom Hanks, chat. This was Colonel Tom Parker from Elvis, and now Geppetto and Pinocchio. Two really bad performances in this movie. You have the big controversial casting, chat, in the film. You have Cynthia Erivo, I believe her name is. How you say her name? She plays the Blue Fairy in the movie. She has maybe 2 minutes of screen time. So for all the racists out there, don't worry. She's only in the movie for about 2.5 minutes. I'll say this. Even though I think her design is weird, it's like, this is not really working for me aesthetically. She does one of the songs, When You Wish Upon a Star. And she does a good job. She does do a good job singing the song. I was like, okay, that was pretty good. But then she's gone. And because the Blue Fairy shows up several times throughout the original film and other adaptations, that she's only in one moment. And I don't know why. I don't know why. It's very weird that she's not in there. And then you have, now this guy's got an Italian name. Giuseppe Battistone. And he plays Stromboli. And he's okay. He's very much speaking the boppity boop Italian. He's like, hey, it's Pinocchio. Yes. Grazie. He's like, that's what he's doing. But I'm like, that's kind of what you expect from Stromboli. He's okay. He does his job. He actually feels like he is interacting with the puppet because he's fucking hitting things constantly and throwing things around. It's like, I can kind of buy him. He's in a really bad, he's kind of like Little Watto-esque with Watto, except he was fucking fatter and more swollen. In the movie, it's weird because, Stromboli only has a, certain amount of screen time. But at one point in the film, they bring him back only for and he was arrested. He was arrested and thrown in jail. What was he thrown and arrested in jail for? No, he just was. And he's like, hey, I'm in jail. That's it. But yeah, he's okay. You have the new characters I was talking about, chat, that Cayenne Lamy, I think her name is. I don't know how to say her last name. But she plays Fabiana. And I'm like, again, I think there's potential for this character. She plays a person who was like a ballerina as a dancer, but I guess she was injured at one point. And she works for Stromboli now as a puppeteer. And I feel like you could have a really nice moment, or several nice moments between her and Pinocchio, where it's like, hey, people view me this way because of like my skin color and how the fact that my leg doesn't work anymore. And Pinocchio's like, oh shit, and they can but they don't do any of that. What they do is they have a sexy French. She's also a ventriloquist, and she has a puppet which is just there to like kind of be like a love interest for Pinocchio, I guess, even though it's all a lie. But she also uses this puppet to talk to Pinocchio. Pinocchio's like, fuck you, humies. I don't like humans anymore, which I get it. You know, he's been abused. He's been confused, yeah. But, you know, they don't do, outside of that, it just feels like, why did you even have her there? Because you could have gotten a little deeper, hell, a little even darker, and you could have added like a really nice conversation. There's a scene there you could do, but I don't think Disney has the fucking balls to do it, because it would have necessitated getting a little darker with it. And then the last of the human cast that I think is worth mentioning, you have Luke Evans as the coachman, who does get an expanded role from the original film. The coachman's not in the original movie that much. Luke Evans feels like the only actor who's like really fucking having fun, and he has like a British accent for some reason, for whatever. And, you know, he's the character that takes the kids to Pleasure Island. They do all that, and he feels like, someone mentioned earlier, and I agree with you, his performance is very reminiscent of Johnny Depp's Jack Sparrow. And it was like, okay, this is kind of working for me. He looks just fucking gross. It looks like he has every goddamn disease imaginable, chat. Like tons of STDs. Like something about this man just doesn't look right. All right, but kids are like, he's fun. It's like, sure. But the thing is, though, I forgot to mention this. So when we do, he's fine, whatever, he's okay. But we get to Pleasure Island at one point in the movie, and I'm kind of spoiling this because who gives a shit? You're not going to watch this. If you're going to watch it my video commentary, or watch it knowing that, like, okay, I can't wait for this moment to come up as Chris or whoever else was talking about it. So much of this film feels toothless. Because they take out a lot of the adult references. They take out some of the racist stuff, like, you know, the Native American imagery. But which I thought, like, that was smart. But they remove a lot of the things that make Pleasure Island like what it is. So in the original, you know, various adaptation, or at least the 1940 film, like, you know, you go to this island, which is all filled with, you know, vice and sin, and kids are drinking, kids are smoking cigars and cigarettes and whatever. In this film, they completely gut all that, because I think Disney was so scared to imply that kids were smoking cigars or cigarettes, whatever, or they were drinking alcohol. And so instead of a beer, it's root beer, chat. And, you know, root beer makes you turn into a donkey, apparently. And there's no references to cigarettes at all. You have some kids that are, you know, like, let's, you know, eat candy. They have this section where the people are just stuffing their fat fucking faces with candy. And it's just like, there's just nothing. It's like, then if a kid watches this, if they see kids drinking root beer, it's like, are they going to freak out because maybe they drink root beer? It's like, is drinking root beer going to turn me into a donkey? I don't know. It's just come on. I think it's because there's this stupid fucking rule. I think the MPA started recently. Like, if you have people smoking cigarettes, that you instantly get an R rating, which is dumb. Which is so goddamn dumb. And this one is, you know, they can't have them drink beer either. Again, it just feels like Disney doesn't want to go even down, even though it makes sense. It makes sense because this is supposed to be an island of vice and sin. And these are supposed to be kids indulging in adult behaviors they shouldn't be indulging because they're bad. All right? That's the fucking point. And they're like, no, we can't do that. We can't do that. And the whole, the donkey stuff, the CGI in that is terrible. It just looks really bad. It's not nearly as terrifying as it is in the original film. A lot of it's either done as a gag, like, oh, I got ears, I got a tail, oh, Pinocchio, what's happening? And then we see it like in shadow, and it's like, it's whatever. Yeah, it's like it's very much, they pulled the teeth out from under it. Out from it. However, now, chat, I've been very negative. I've been super negative so far, and for good reason. There's a lot to be negative about in this movie. The one person who I feel like is going to come out of this movie smelling like fucking roses is Joseph Gordon-Levitt as Jiminy Cricket. One, if no one told you who was voicing Jiminy Cricket, no one would be able to guess who voices him. Anyone says, like, I would be able to. No, you wouldn't. You're lying to me. I would have no idea that was Joseph Gordon-Levitt. And I will say, he does a very good job. I love how he starts out. He's basically a fucking hobo. Watch my on-view commentary. I came up with like a little kind of in-joke with my Jiminy Cricket in the film. He's not bad. He's not bad at all. Maybe not all the material that he's always given is very good, but he fucking does the most he can with it. And for the most part, I feel like he succeeds as Jiminy Cricket. I just really liked his voice in the film. I don't know what other people have been saying about him. I think he's one of the best things about it. And I was very surprised by that. I was like, all right, Jim, go love Jimmy Cricket. Okay, I thought he was great. I thought he was great as Pinocchio's conscience check. Now, outside of that, the rest of the voice acting in the movie I think is terrible. They have Lorraine Bracco in this, who, for those that don't know, she played Karen in Goodfellas. She was Henry Hill's wife in Goodfellas. She was Tony Soprano's therapist in The Sopranos chat, and she voices a seagull in this movie. Terrible. It just feels like she's literally reading her lines off the page. It's like, I love to eat garbage. It's my favorite pastime. Who are you? You say your name was Jiminy Cricket? Sure, I'll help you. I was like, why is this character here? Like, I don't remember a seagull in the original Pinocchio. I don't recall that at all. Another unnecessary character. Very unnecessary. You know what? No, the reason why she's included in the movie is because they want to do they want to do like a water skiing physical gag in the film during the third act. That's what they have her there for. Outside of that, I'm like, I do not know who this character is, and they feel very unnecessary other than do a water ski gag at the end of the movie. Then we have Keegan-Michael Key, who plays Honest John, and he's given a lot of the dialogue where they don't even do the song or anything with him. They reference his song and stuff. But he's getting a lot of that kind of like modern humor. It's like, we got Keegan-Michael Key. He's a comedian. He does sketch comedy and stuff, whether it be on Mad TV or Key and Peele. It's like, okay, yeah, give him all the jokes. Give him all the jokes that reference modern day life. So he's the one that does the, what should we call you? I have it, Chris Pine. Everyone's like, And he's like, you know what? I see what you want to be, Pinocchio. Look at you, a wooden boy. It's amazing. You want to be an actor? No, not an actor. A creator? No, an influencer. And I'm like, oh my God. Here it's like, why is this here? It's unnecessary. Glee, thank you for the 100 biddies. And Jason, thank you for the gifted sub. But that's all of his stuff in the film, and it's annoying. And then one point he just kind of leaves. Like in the original movie. Like, Honest John talks to, like, there's a scene where Honest John's like, hey, I found a fucking living puppet. Do you want me to sell you him? And Stromboli's like, fuck yeah, I'll take it. That scene's not in the movie at all. I don't know why they got rid of it. It's just, they literally just kind of, like, walk away with Pinocchio, and then he's immediately with Stromboli. Like, he's already been enslaved. And I'm like, well, I think we need that scene where, I mean, I don't want the movie to be any longer than it actually is, but it just feels weird. It's like they're just gone completely, and they do a lot of visual gags with them too. But he's like, well, yeah, that's kind of expected. But at the same time, it's like, fuck yeah, an influencer. We're gonna make you an influencer, Pinocchio, because all the kids that are watching want to be Instagram stars and TikTok stars. And Disney's like, haha, we're on the up and up. So yeah, and that's it. That's pretty much it. That's all there's other actors in it. You don't care. I don't care. And when it comes down to it, chat, it's just another half-baked, poorly paced remake that exists to solely promote the Disney brand. Promote all of the movies we've done in the past. Let's make modern-day references that which will later feel excruciatingly dated in a few years. Hell, a few months. It's just unnecessary. It's like, why are you doing this? Like, there's a couple of things I can point out. Like, I like that. I thought Joseph Gordon-Levitt as Jiminy Cricket was pretty good. The Cynthia Erivo as the Blue Fairy. She's limited screen time she has. I really liked her moment. I thought that was good. But man, so much of this. I knew this would be. I had a feeling this would be bad, but I was like, God damn, not this bad. But now it all makes sense. It all makes sense. With this going straight to Disney Plus. Not a lot of people come out of this looking very good. And also, especially, I don't know who writes this. But who's the writers on this? Oh, well, there we go. Robert Zemeckis, who directed this film. He also co-wrote it along with Chris Weitz. So I'm not sure what else he's done. Oh, he's done film adaptations of Twilight and The Golden Compass. Well, that makes sense. and Cinderella. Okay. That makes a lot of sense, John. The Robert Zemeckis, like, what? I mean, when you think about Robert Zemeckis and his career and, like, what he did, like, in the 80s with stuff like Back to the Future, the trilogy, or, like, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, which is one of my favorite movies of all time, easily in my top 20, and he dealt with animated characters in that. Like, it's so weird to me that you have a guy who perfectly handled the idea of humans, live action characters interacting with animated 2D characters just so well. And yet here we are nearly 30 years later where he can't do it anymore. That's what happens, I think, for a lot of these directors, Chad. It happens to the best ones. Whether it be George Lucas or Steven Spielberg or Ridley Scott, they just lose it. I think they lose it eventually. And they should probably move on to other things. Try different things at that point. And don't do blockbusters when you just can't do it. And his obsession with this dead-eyed animation style, which is here. Pinocchio's dead-eyed in this. Like, what is it with that? I don't understand it. I don't understand anymore. But yeah, now this is a waste of time. If I were to give this like a rating, I mean, it's not gonna be positive, Chad. You can already tell. But like on the double toasted scale for all you toasties out there, this is to me like it's not quite a fuck you. Although I was like, all right, I'm near that. This is a very, very low some old bullshit for me, Chad. This is a very low some old bullshit. Disappointing movie. Another bad Disney remake. And they're not going to stop. They're not going to stop. You know, they're going to keep making these. We already know. The only thing I can hope for is you're going to keep making them. Just make them watchable. Make them at least like, you know, I think I asked too much. Thank you, Cleveland 100 Base. Well, there's some bullshit. Thank you. Yes, it deserves it indeed. It's the one thing it does deserve. I don't think I'm going to change my expectations where I'm like, you need to make it at least as good as the original, if not better. I'm going to say, just make it, you know, watchable and go like, you know what, that was entertaining. That was fine. It's nowhere near as good as the original, but I'm like, that wasn't too bad. I'm just going to, that's my new rating. Just kind of go right there. Just try to get that. Try to attain. Well, I watched you and I didn't feel like ripping my eyelashes out or something. You know, I didn't feel like I needed the drink to get through the movie. That's all I expect. That's all I expect. What about you guys? What do you think of Pinocchio? I want to hear you guys in a bit. And Casfay with the 100 billion donations. Hard hand model extraordinary Casfay. Thank you guys if you were donating throughout this review. I was on a bit of a tear, Chad, to get into all the nitty-gritty details. But thank 5 out of 5 Roberto Bernice. This movie does indeed join the pantheon. And it's a hell of a fucking pantheon, chat, of bad Pinocchio movies. Pretty incredible. Thank you. Look, I don't hate this movie as much as you, but that ending was that ending is awful. That ending is terrible. Oh, the ending. Do you want spoilers? You want spoilers for the ending, chat? You don't care. You don't care about the ending, right? You don't care about the ending, right? You don't care. You know how this fucking story ends. Like, I don't think it's a spoiler. We're not spoiling a 150-year-old book at this point. So, it has a weird ending where they kind of do the reverse where Geppetto's praying to like make sure like Pinocchio lives. It's the reverse now where it's Pinocchio wishing that Geppetto would live, and they steal from Pokemon the movie. They literally steal from Pokemon the movie, Chad, where Pinocchio is single. Remember when Ash dies in Pokemon the movie when he's fucking, and I will say, Ash, good for you, man, literally goes up against Mewtwo and tries to punch the fuck out of him. Mewtwo's like, what the hell? And hits him with like that psychic blast, psychic or side beam, and turns Ash to stone, and he's dead, right? Pikachu then cries over Ash's body, and a single tear falls on Ash, and thankfully, I don't know what that Pikachu's essence and his love brought Ash back to human corporeal form, and he survived. The same thing in this movie. It's the same fucking thing, where Pinocchio's crying over the dead, broken body of Geppetto. And a single tear falls from Pinocchio's eyes onto the Geppetto, and he comes back to life in that scene. And it's like, okay, weird. All right, I'm poking the movie. I understand that reference. But then they do something that's kind of awkward. And I'm like, okay, why did you do that? Where Geppetto and Pinocchio are walking away, and Jiminy Cricket's, wow, well, you know, some people say on that day Pinocchio became a real boy. Other people say he never did. Anyway, bye. And they kind of, like, they don't want to commit to whether Pinocchio became real. Now, they show in the movie where it's like, okay, clearly he did become real. But he becomes real. The thing is, though, he just looks like that. He becomes a fleshy version of that puppet. That's the thing that's weird. Like, this Pinocchio chat's about, he goes up to, like, my knee. Okay, so it becomes like a weird abomination Pinocchio monster. Like, he literally becomes just a flesh version of this, a meat version. And again, it goes like, ah! And they knew it was, and the thing is, like, they knew it was creepy, and they had it from the back. You see, like, a side profile. And I'm like, oh, I don't like this at all. What's going on here? What I would have done which I feel like any sensible person with any fucking semblance of common sense would have done, chat, is they show a picture of Geppetto's actual son who died, right? Like, you see him. He's a normal-looking kid. He's normal, doesn't look anything like Pinocchio. But he's like, yeah, sure, it looks just like your son, Geppetto. Sure, okay, yeah, wink, wink. But why didn't you just then get the actor in that picture to then become, like, Pinocchio? Just do that. Well, I mean, that's what you should have done. You literally have a scene early in the movie where the blue fairy is like, I'm going to take, she shoots the picture full of magic, and then a Kamehameha blast into the puppet. And it's like, why didn't you just do that instead of giving us a flesh version of this thing? It's a very weird decision. I'm keeping this in the review, by the way. I'm keeping this in. This is like, is anyone talking about that? I don't know if anyone's talking about that, chat, but it's just kind of gross. And again, it's like, that was the thing that's always worried me about the marketing, was like, this doesn't look like this is working in live action. It doesn't. It doesn't. Especially when you make it soft. Filled with meat and cartilage and bone. Oh, Luke Ball, Jimmy Cricket has the fucking nerve to say, some people say this and other people say this. I guess we'll never know. That's what he says. He does. It's like, no, what are you talking about? I see it. When he's a fucking narrator. Well, he's an unreliable narrator. I'm going to tell you what, Chad. Kazfay, thank you so much for all the biddies. Thank you for, oh my God, hard hands, Kazfay. Thank you so much for the unicorn biddies and the doge biddies and the pitter pat biddies and the kazoo trumpet biddies. Thank you. We're going to get hype in just a second. I'm going to tell you what, Chad. There's like, okay, so all I'll say is, during my audio video commentary, I like to kind of come up with my own little narratives, my own little in-jokes during the audio. It's like, hey, I'm like, we're in the room together. It's fun. I constantly reference that Jiminy Cricket has like a drug problem, is an alcoholic, and he definitely, to survive, sucked a lot of dick. Like when he was a transient, when he was a hobo, chat. That's how he had to do to get by. And so I'm constantly referring to him like he is not a reliable person in this movie. What we're actually seeing is probably not what's actually happening. I'll suck your dick. That's what constantly. So please do watch my either watch or listen to my audio video commentary of Pinocchio, where Jiminy Cricket is just a dick sucking hobo who is not a reliable narrator.